All right, so what we're gonna do now is I tore my wishi apart. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see down in there or not, but I let it soak in milk, just a little bit of milk. I let it soak for about, I don't know, 10 minutes in milk. I know a lot of people don't do that, but for one thing, it helps with the breading. If you're gonna just fry it without any breading on it though, I would not soak it in milk. I'd just clean it and then put it in your skillet with some oil. But now that I've got this coated fairly well, and I took a bag and I've got two cups of cornmeal in it, and I get my cornmeal from Cub Sneed and Hilliard, so it's like a rough ground cornmeal. And then I put 1 part flour in there. And some salt and pepper. I like pepper, so I always use a lot. Just gonna shake it up real good, mix it up. And like I said, you don't have to bread it. You can just take it and clean it, put it right in your skillet with the oil, and then fry it with salt and pepper. So take my wishi, kind of let it drip off a little bit. You can see the milk dripping off of it. I put it in the bag. I shake it up real good so that it gets nice and coated. If you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to ask while we're doing this. So your wishi comes out nice and breaded.
The native Rachel Ray.
Julia Child. And you put your wishi in the bag. Oh, that's a cute little thing. All right, so we have all our wishi in the bag. So now we're just gonna continue to shake it, give it a nice good coating. The bag broke. Oopsie. I'm sorry, the bag broke. What the heck? I ripped at the top. Okay, well. It happens. That's all I can say is it happens. Maybe we should have bought Ziploc and not Walmart brand. I don't know. All right, so I think they're all pretty much coated real good. So we're going to move over to the skillet, which I've already had heating. I put a little vegetable oil down in there. And you can tell it's pretty hot. It's been heating for a good, actually, 5 minutes.
You gotta look at my face for a second.
You're sitting on the wishi.
Whoops.
That's what it'll look like when it's ready. You try to keep your coating on there as much as possible. That's why you want your skillet to be nice and hot, so that once you put your wishi in there, it immediately starts to cook. It doesn't get soggy. sure not to overcrowd your skillet. Then I take my grease that I have, like fat back grease, like every Indian has a jar of grease in their house. So I just take it, and I don't fry it in that, I just use it for seasoning. So I want to season that up real good. Make sure it's nice and coated. I don't put the lid on it because I don't want it to wilt. Some people parboil their wishi before they put it in the pan. So it doesn't have to fry as long, I guess, and it makes it softer. But I usually just fry it just like it is. Spread it some more so that we can put the second brush in. Don't put too much oil in your skillet though, because then it'll come out soggy and greasy. So you want to just enough to coat it. Can you understand that? Yeah. We need to put that in. Actually, we'll just put it in there for good. Oh, yeah, put a paper towel in it. That way it sucks up when it touches it. Okay, so we're just going to take a bowl and put some paper towels on the bottom of it because you want it to soak up that excess grease. We'll get a nice crisp on the outside of this. Does anybody have any questions?
They're quite good to feeding.
So you want to wash this out more, and then I'll mix this up. There's
So you move it back over here.
huh?
I'm gonna move it back over here.
Okay, so we're starting to get a little, I don't know if you can see that, but we're starting to get a little crisp on the outside of this. You don't want it to burn, so, and try not to flip it too much because then all your coating will come off. So wait till it's kind of a golden brown color before you start to flip it. Okay, while that's cooking, and I have my heat set at like a 5, like a medium. While that's cooking, I'll mix up some flour to make some homebread.
I'm just a camera person.
I guess I'm the dishwasher.
Okay, so we're gonna mix ourselves up some pone bread. So I use self-rising flour, and depending on the size of bread that I'm gonna make, depends on how much flour I'm using. But usually for just a regular batch, and I don't even measure, I just know what it looks like, I eyeball everything, but I would say it's roughly around 4 cups maybe. So I got my self-rising flour. On the side. And I've got some Crisco. So I'm going to take my Crisco, and I use a big old dollop of it. And I put it in there. And I cut it into the flour. All you're doing is just kind of chopping it up and putting it in there. If it's not chopping up real fine or real well, I'll take my hand and kind of mash it up, and the pieces of Crisco, kind of mash it up in there. That way it breaks up evenly into my biscuit bread. Alright, so it's mashed up fairly well, and I'm going to make a hole in the center of my bread mix. Is that milk over there? It's in the refrigerator. Okay, so I'm going to use my milk, and I'm going to put it in there, in the middle of that well, and I'm going to start mixing it up. And I'll probably have to add some more milk to it, but... And I know it's kind of hard to understand me with this mask on, but... I'm trying to speak clearly. Leslie, can you turn this? Might want to take the thing over there and let them see what it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Here. Just, what do you need?
Just let them see this. That's what you want your wishi to look like. It's starting to crisp up. If you could see, it's got this hard, crunchy layer on it. I know I got seasoned fingers from cooking, so the heat doesn't really hurt anymore. And this is what your consistency of your biscuit bread is going to look like. It's going to be like real sticky. So you're going to take your flour then and kind of put it on the top so that it doesn't stick to your hands whenever you get it out. There's a like a round pan over there. Let's hand it to me. Yeah.
What, this one?
No, it's right there in front of you. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. So after we have put our flour on there, I'm just gonna knead it, and I'm gonna take the edges off here. And oh, it jumped right off there. Okay, so I'm kneading the dough again. You don't want to knead it too much because then it's going to not rise. So it's starting to get sticky again. So you know that you've got all of your flour mixed in there. So then you're going to want to, we'll take that off time. No. You want to take your flour and just put a little dusting on there. And I've already preheated my oven to 375. And you want to keep your dough about an inch thick when you're making pone bread. I remember when I was a little girl, my granny used to make pone bread in a black pizza dish like this. And she always had that big old thing of pone bread on there, and she would always have like side meat and stuff. And me and my sister would be playing around outside and get hungry, and we'd just run inside the house and break us off a piece of that bread and get us some Caro syrup and some butter and mix it up and dip our bread in it. Sometimes we'd use honey if we had honey. All right, so we got our bread nice and round, and we're going to put it in the oven. And it'll take about 30 minutes to cook. So we'll be back after that. Oh, our wishi is done. Hang on just a second. Let me wash my hands. Always make sure that you wash your hands.
Just to show that she is washing her hands.
Yeah. I want to make sure that I keep doing the 3 W's.
Kind of looks like chicken.
All right. So this is our finished product of the wishi. Like I said, you don't want it to be soggy, so we're just going to stick it in our bowl here. This is nice and crispy. Too bad we don't have any pork chops. Right, so there's our wishi, and I'm gonna get the second batch of wishi going here. So, let's see, got my bag.
So we'll be back.
If you want to see how I start to finish with this, I take my vegetable oil and I just put enough to coat the, a little thin layer on the bottom. Make sure you're using a good seasoned cast iron pan too, because it gives it a, I don't know, extra flavor, I think, and it gets really nice and crispy. It just slides right out of there if it's seasoned good. Alright, so our oil is getting hot already. You can see it's starting to sizzle. Again, make sure that your oil is nice and hot when you put it in there, because if you don't, you're going to get, it's going to be like waterlogged with your oil. Make sure to take off the excess cornmeal when you're picking it up out of the bag too. Geez, there's a lot of little pieces of wishi in this bag.
Waste not, want not.
Nope, because I'll be thinking about it tonight when I get ready to go to bed. Man, I sure got that extra piece of wishi out of that bag. Alright, so then you just throw away the excess. So we're going to season it once again with our trusty meat grease. Make sure it's all nice and coated. And the trick to this is cooking it on a lower temperature so that it has time to cook all the way through the middle. And I make a mess when I cook. I don't cook gracefully. There's a lot of it that ends up on the top of the stove.
Signs of a good cook.
And like I said, I never measure anything. I just know what it's supposed to look like and dump it in there, so I'm doing my best to try to give you the exact measurements. So while we're waiting on this to cook, we'll continue to clean wishi. We'll be back in about 30 minutes.